Racism has long torn us apart. It's a battle that's never really over. But on the best days, enough of us have the guts and the hearts to stand up for the best in us, to choose love over hate, unity over disunion, progress over retreat, to stand up against the poison of white supremacy, as I did in my inaugural address, to single out as the most dangerous terrorist threat to our homeland is white supremacy.
You know, last I checked, we didn't have the KKK burning down cities. But you know who was burning down cities? BLM.
Christine and Laura, what you're seeing behind me is one of multiple locations that have been burning in Kenosha, Wisconsin over the course of the night. A second night since Jacob Blake was seen shot in the back 7 times by a police officer. And what you are seeing now, these images came and come in stark contrast to what we saw over the course of the daytime hours in Kenosha and into the early evening, which were largely peaceful demonstrations in the face of law enforcement. It wasn't until night fell that things began to get a little bit more contentious. Things were thrown back and forth. Police started using some of those crowd dispersal tactics like tear gas, even playing very loud sounds to push them out. And then what you are seeing, the common theme that ties all of this together, is an expression of anger and frustration over what people feel like has become an all too familiar story playing out in places from across the country, not just here in Kenosha, Wisconsin.
I don't really think that white supremacy is actually the real problem here. So what is really going on?
Laura, we had Amalek. Amalek is seen as the eternal enemy of our people, whose members found strength by making us suffer. Therefore, when the Lord your God grants you safety from all your enemies around you, and the land that the Lord your God is giving to you as a hereditary portion, you shall blot out the memory of Amalek from under heaven. Do not forget. Our rabbinic sages parse these sentences and derive 2 distinct meanings. Blotting out the memory of Amalek is a military command, literally to destroy Amalek. Now, facing today's Amalek, we are reminded that the Torah calls us not just to escape, but to extirpate Amalek. We are commanded to do real and literal battle against it. That means coming off the bench in the fight against white supremacy. It means putting our reputations and our money and our physical bodies on the line. But also so that we are ready to answer people with radically destructive and incoherent versions of history, so that we can counter white supremacists, so that we can counter Amalek and blot them out by retaining on our lips and in our records their history. By being bearers of history, we can help guide the future. Blotting out Amalek need not merely be about military conquest. Equally important is ideological victory. And nothing could more readily counter white supremacy than a Jewish community proudly helping our Muslim neighbors. There is nothing that undermines a white supremacist worldview more than diverse communities getting along and building together.
So we have politicians that are going after white people because of this fictitious idea that we are somehow suppressing them and oppressing them because we're white. And now we have religious leaders that are pretty much saying the same thing. So what's the end goal?
And other racially motivated views are increasingly coming out into the open.
In a few years, we're going to be a majority brown country. White people will not be the majority in the country anymore.
This will be the first generation ever in American history in which whites will be a minority of the generation at some point.
As of 2007, every year, babies being born in this country, whites now are the minority.
In 2044, everyone is going to be a minority.
As the demographics change, as white people become the minority in the country, which is coming.
Demographics is destiny.
Demographics is destiny.
Demographics is destiny, right? The country is changing.
I've been saying it here. Other people have been saying it here for years now, even before Donald Trump. The demographics is destiny.
The white population is declining for the first time in history in America, while the number of multiracial Americans have more than doubled.
So we live in a country where the demographics are changing. It's becoming less white.
Correct.
Okay.
You'll be announcing that we're calling the 38 electoral votes of Texas for the Democratic nominee for president. It's changing. It's going to become a purple state and then a blue state because of the demographics, because of the population growth.
The growth in Texas has been almost entirely driven by non-white population growth, mostly by Hispanic and Latino population growth.
The idea that, whites will not be the majority.
Reporting in El Paso, this is the current scene right now. As you guys can see, this is a true humanitarian crisis. This is the streets of El Paso. There are roughly 2,500 migrants released onto the streets, sleeping here. Not all migrants have NTAs, that's the notice of here, but these are the living conditions. ¿Este es Venezuela, señor? ¿Cuántos días tienen aquí en la calle? So he said he's been waiting for 2 weeks here on the streets. The majority of the migrants that we've been speaking with are from Venezuela. We've also spoke to migrants from Nicaragua, Colombia, Turkey, Africa, and many more. But these are the current scenes here in El Paso as authorities get ready for the ending of Title 42 on May 11th. What migrants are telling me is the reason they're crossing now is because Title 42 is officially ending, and they've already spoke to other family members that have been released in the United States. Hola, hola, hola. ¿Son de Venezuela todos? No. ¿Venezuela no? ¿Cuál parte?
Yo, de Ecuador.
¿De Ecuador? ¿Cuánto tiempo ya tienen aquí viviendo en la calle del Paso? ¿Mucho tiempo? ¿2 días?
No, varios días, pero no recuerdo exactamente.
So he said he's been here for several days. There's also kids here. There have been reports of chickenpox breaking out in some of these migrant camps here in El Paso. But there's migrants all over the streets right now. It is a true humanitarian crisis, and it's putting a real strain on authorities here in El Paso. Now, the mayor has declared an emergency. So here, once again, we're going to look at more migrants. Hola, ¿son de Venezuela? ¿Cuál parte de Venezuela? ¿De Caracas? ¿Cuánto tiempo ya tienen aquí en las calles? 12 días. So he said he has 12 days here on the street. ¿Cuál parte de Estados Unidos van a ir? Chicago? So I've been speaking with some migrants who are trying to get destinations to cities like Denver, Houston, Chicago. They just say they don't have any money to be bused. But once again, we're going to show you one more time. This is what it looks like all over downtown El Paso right now. But stay tuned for all the updates here on the ground reporting for News Nation.
Chaos at the southern border as up to 1 million people look to cross into the U.S. as Title 42 expires. While border agents expect a major rush when the COVID-related expulsion policy ends May 11th, the influx along the border has already begun. Agents in the Rio Grande Valley say smuggling organizations are bringing up to 10,000 per day to the border, and that's pushing U.S. border towns to their limits. Here in El Paso, Texas, officials declared a state of emergency May 1st.
We figure that it's anywhere between 10 to 12,000 people that are ready to come on May 11th, May 12th. We do know that there's additional coming right behind them, and we are going to be prepared. I did talk to the federal government the other day. I did talk to the Secretary of Mayorkas' office, and I told them that really we have to change. There's no end game to this, and we can't continue as a city and as a country.
This is becoming a serious humanitarian crisis here in downtown El Paso and many border communities along the U.S. southern border, as literally hundreds of thousands of migrants keep coming across the border, and they end up like this on the streets here behind me. Border Patrol agents are going around and passing out these flyers that encourage them to turn themselves in. And Secretary Mayorkas was here just a few days ago touting his new plan to fix this problem. But somehow that plan doesn't include fewer people coming to the United States. It just includes pre-approving them outside the U.S. and then flying them directly into the heartland of America.
We are reaching the people where they are. It is not only our security obligation, it is our humanitarian responsibility to cut the smugglers out, and that is indeed what we are doing. We are building pathways.
The hope is that as more people take advantage of these pathways, fewer will overwhelm the border. The pipeline of people surging north through Mexico, though, are unlikely to just go back home. Even those migrants arriving in the U.S. are finding things tougher than expected. More than 2,000 migrants now live on the streets in a few square blocks around the Sacred Heart Catholic Church here in El Paso.
Pero este es el primer vez en los Estados Unidos.
Ya había entrado 3 veces.
3 veces.
He's been here 3 times already in the United States.
Y 3 veces lo votaron.
And he was deported already 3 times. With wait times for an asylum hearing already stretching into 2026, and from the numbers waiting in Mexico to cross later this week, things here will likely get much worse. From El Paso, I'm Chuck Holton for CBN News.
It seems to me that there is a concerted effort to label all white people as if they were some kind of evil force in this world. The way that they throw around this term of white supremacy honestly reminds me of the way that feminists throw around the term patriarchy. Now, the term patriarchy was a tool utilized by the feminist movement to demonize all men. And now we have this white supremacy. The big bad boogeyman must be brothers with the patriarchy. That this term of white supremacy is being utilized to demonize anyone who's white. You know, don't get me wrong. I think we all have the right to live and exist in this world. I don't think any one race is better than any other race. With that being said, though, I don't think that you go to great lengths to exterminate one race so you can promote another. And I kind of feel like that's what's happening here in America. And not just here in America, it's happening over in Europe, over in the UK, Ireland, Scotland, Germany. You know, why don't you hear about any migrants that are trying to go to the Middle East or India or China? I mean, what's going on here with this? Why is it that if you happen to be paler than anyone else, they consider you the evil one? The majority of people just want to be left alone. That is all I have for you for this video, folks, but I think it's something that really needs to be looked at and analyzed properly. We all have the right to exist. All lives matter. That doesn't mean that you bring in mercenaries from somewhere else to take over a country so you can exterminate a race that I guess you just don't like. Bringing in a foreign force into a country just so you can exterminate somebody. Pretty sure that goes under the idea of genocide and is an evil action to do. So I really do believe that this is a thing that's happening, and I'm sure somebody somewhere is going to call me a racist. And you know, I don't really care. Like I said, all lives matter. And that means that we all have the right to exist. Preferably without trying to fucking kill each other. So, until next time, folks, have a nice day.
And I'm not saying this because I'm at a black HBCU.
Hush up, boy.